And that's national and international news for viewers in Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. Canada Now continues.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol McNeil. In Toronto news tonight, a massive manhunt in the city. Police are looking for a man who robbed a bank and then stole a police cruiser at gunpoint. The latest from the CBC's Beatrice Politi, who's been following the story today.
This is the suspect police are looking for tonight in a bank robbery. It happened here at the CIBC branch at Danforth and Woodbine Avenue. The man, who was wearing a disguise, told a teller he had a gun, demanded money, and then left. No one was hurt. The suspect was making his getaway in a taxi when a lone police officer approached the cab.
The struggle ensued. The suspect pointed a silver-colored handgun at the officer, and at that point managed to break free and jump into the police vehicle and stole the vehicle. And at that point, a number of shots were fired by the officer in the direction of the vehicle.
Nobody was injured in that incident either, but the suspect then sped through a nearby neighborhood before abandoning the police cruiser.
Well, I was working like 5 houses down, and I heard a car vehicle speeding down the street. It's probably going at least 100, because when he took this turn, I heard a big squeal when he hit the brakes.
The emergency task force and a canine unit searched the area for the suspect, but found nothing. The suspect is described as male, white, with an olive complexion, 35 to 40 years old, 5'5" to 5'8", 155 to 170 pounds, with short dark hair. Police said he spoke with an accent and was last seen wearing khaki pants, a suede jacket, and a dark hat. Police aren't releasing the name of the officer involved, but we do know she's from 54 Division, 28 years old, and has been with the force for 2 years. Police are also advising anyone who knows the suspect not to approach him. Contact police instead. Beatrice Politi, CBC News, Toronto.
The Harris government says forget it. They won't go ahead with a 42% raise for Queen's Park politicians. In fact, tonight it's unclear whether they'll get any raise at all. Robin Smythe joins me with that story. Good evening, Robin.
Carol, just yesterday, this 42% pay raise option was very much alive. But this is not an issue the government wants to spend time on, not an issue that they want to defend. So today, the Conservatives backed off.
I think 42% is off the table, no question.
And why has the government dropped its proposal to give every MPP a huge raise?
Oh, I think each and every MPP is feeling heat from the public on this.
Heat like this.
After all the fuss that Mike Harris made about teachers and healthcare professionals, I think it's atrocious.
I think they get enough money already.
Being a city employee, we had to wait literally 1 decade before we even got like a 2% wage increase, so I would think that would be ridiculous.
In the past decade, Ontario politicians have had their pay cut by 10%. The Premier says restoring that cut now would be fair.
I would support the restoration of the 10% cuts when the books were balanced.
The government has been negotiating with the other parties on what the raise should be, but the opposition isn't playing ball.
We say no.
The Liberal leader proposed a pay increase in line with recent increases for public servants.
We each receive a 2% pay hike. That's 6% over the course of the next 3 years. Nothing more and nothing less.
Now you're asking me to have the MPP set the pay, and on that basis, you're 6% too high.
And so it may end up with no pay raise for provincial politicians.
Well, if it's nothing, I mean, then that's the end of it, and then let's get on with our lives, and let's focus on hospital beds, textbooks for our children, clean air, and clean water.
So it seems it was once a 42% pay raise, and then a 32% raise, and then maybe a 10% raise is now, Carol, a wage freeze.
So how serious are the Liberals about giving up a pay raise altogether?
Well, even though some Liberal members will tell you privately that they'd like a pay raise, the party's just not willing to pay the political price. When you have your leader standing up in the legislature and denouncing the pay raise idea, he can't turn back now. And at the same time, all of the opposition critics have watched the trouble that Mike Harris finds himself in. As the politician who said in 1995 that there were just too many politicians in Ontario, they were paid too much, now he finds himself talking about a pay raise, Carol.
All right, Robin, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Beer and hockey, beer and pizza, beer and sex. That last combination has gone too far in a recent Carlsberg ad, according to Ontario's Consumer Minister, Bob Runciman. Here's the ad that's brewing the controversy.
So tell us about this guy. What's he like? He's really nice.
The new guy's girlfriend talks about how well he performs a specific sexual act. The boyfriend returns with his beer to smiles of approval from her friends. Runciman thinks the government should set some kind of standard for alcohol advertising. Today, Premier Mike Harris weighed into the debate, saying he thinks there are already enough watchdogs in place.
There's the industry itself that attempts to regulate the appropriateness of beer and alcohol ads, and then there is a committee, as I understand it, of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission that is reviewing their policies in this area.
Bob Runciman explains why he finds the ads so offensive.
I was bothered by it. I think that, you know, if you turned it around and had three men talking about a woman in those kinds of circumstances, I think there'd be a significant outrage about the ad.
In other news tonight, public elementary school students in Hamilton are now into their third week without school, and the education minister says perhaps the teachers' lockout has gone on too long. Janet Ecker says she is now considering back-to-work legislation that would force the Hamilton board to end the lockout.
Parents want their kids in school. That's where their kids should be. They're frustrated. They're angry. I understand that. I very much feel for them. The children should be in school, and that is, I think, certainly our goal.
The Hamilton Wentworth Board wants to cut 65 teachers to help pay for a 4% wage increase. The teachers say they won't accept any job losses. Talks broke down last weekend, and no new negotiations are scheduled. Toronto's traffic headaches have some politicians talking about extending the Spadina subway line way beyond the boundary of the City of Toronto. But first, they need money. Our urban affairs reporter John Northcott has that story. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Carol. Yes, they have the dream. They have a committee now. All they need is for senior levels of government to open their wallets. Highway 7. Not too many years ago, it was a pleasant ride in the country. Now it's like the 427 with stoplights.
We spent $100 million just this past year in building roads. It's still not good enough. You've seen what's happening on our roads. The cars are everywhere. People can't get around.
Bill Fish is the chair of the Greater Toronto Services Board Transportation Committee. He, along with others from the City of Toronto and Vaughan, are pinning their hopes on the Spadina subway. They'd like to extend it all the way to the Vaughan Town Centre, including a stop at York University, where now they say they accommodate 30,000 cars in 11,000 spaces. Dr. Lorna Marsden.
And that is a considerable feat, and it's something that we would like to alleviate, and the only way to do that is public transit.
But if wishes were subways, then students could ride. The committee has no firm commitment from senior levels of government. When it comes to how the local municipalities could contribute, the committee points to charges from all the development that will follow once the line is built. Toronto Councillor David Shiner.
Development does come along the rapid transit lines.
The logic of this, if the problem is that there's so much development now and that traffic is creating a problem, then if they get a subway line but they finance it with more development, then you could end up where you started from. This is a long way from over, Carol.
Will the other levels of government chip in the money?
Well, it was a funny meeting today because even Mayor Mel Lastman didn't show up, Lorna Jackson of Vaughan didn't show up, an MP, the local MPP was there but was unable to give any assurances, and nobody from the federal level. So it's a dream at the moment.
All right, John, thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Before you go.
Oh, yeah?
One more thing.
Okay.
Enza wants a recount.
Yes, indeed. Perhaps following in the lines of Florida, it's not over. I don't think she'll get one, but nonetheless, here's what Enza had to say.
Look, recount, you know? Look, it says here, she also points out serious irregularities on the ballot. She was listed as Enza Anderson, not Enza Supermodel Anderson. She believes that many voters were confused by the ballot and voted accidentally for Mel Lastman. So we're gonna check up on that.
We'll be watching that story very closely, but in the meantime, it's one election down and one to go. Something to keep in mind for the federal vote later this month, this Friday and Saturday, and next Monday as well. You can vote in advance from noon till 8 p.m. The address of the advance polls is on the back of those voter information cards that you got in the mail. You can also contact Elections Canada. Some psychiatric patients are speaking out against a medical treatment that's decades old. It's electroconvulsive therapy, a treatment of last resort for people with severe depression or schizophrenia. But patients say it's unnecessary, dangerous, and they want it stopped. Mike Wise joins me now with the details. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Carol. Electroconvulsive therapy is also known as ECT. It's been performed in Canada since the 1940s. It's also commonly known as electroshock therapy. But today, a group of patients, patients group with the Centre of Addiction and Mental Health, say they have evidence that shows ECT use is up in Ontario, and they want to make sure that potential patients are fully aware of the side effects of the procedure.
Stop them now.
A group of ex-patients who underwent the treatment gathered outside the Queen Street Mental Health Centre to denounce a therapy over 100 patients go through each year there.
I had my brain fried. I didn't know what I was doing for 6 months. I didn't even know my own family when they come up to visit me.
Electroconvulsive therapy happens in a room like this. Patients are given an anesthetic, a muscle relaxant, and oxygen. Electrodes are placed on the scalp, and electrical current is sent through the brain. It causes a grand mal seizure, lasting from 20 to 90 seconds before the patient recovers. A typical treatment involves 8 to 12 sessions over a 2 to 3 week period.
ECT is a very effective antidepressant, probably the most effective antidepressant in that it works better than all of the drugs now available.
Doctors say they don't know why electroshock therapy works, but they do know how it works. They say a combination of the shocks and the seizures acts to induce a patient's brain to produce chemicals necessary to combat depression. The only problem is that's a temporary fix and has to be followed up with more traditional antidepressants.
I wish we could get
It can also wipe out a patient's memory from the period immediately before, during, or after therapy. Patients can relearn things afterwards, but many say the damage has already been done.
It just meant that I lost my memory, and a lot of my memory's still gone. Plus, I got brain damage here.
The medical community's response, though, is blunt.
The risks of losing some memories at or near the time of illness is well worth the benefit of recovering from that illness.
Patients say they're not happy with the amount of information coming out of the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. They want proof that patients are being told of that potential risk, that balancing act that has to be done there by doctors. They also say they're looking for more proof, Carol, that the procedure actually does work to help counteract the large amount of critical literature that is out there by doctors who are opposed to the procedure.
What's the alternative then?
Well, patients say that they should be investing more in group therapy sessions or one-on-one counseling. They say, though, that that's more expensive and that ECT might be a cheaper thing. The doctor that I spoke to there, Dr. Martin, says that's not the case, though, and that when a patient is recommended for electroconvulsion therapy, it's because the source of their depression is physiological, not psychological. Psychological therapy won't do anything more, and since there really aren't any other drugs or things that work to that same degree, they're going to continue to prescribe ECT when appropriate.
All right, Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll visit the city's newly designated gallery district. It's not Yorkville. The newly anointed place to be is Queen West.
You can come here and you can walk from Bathurst Street all the way down to say Roncesvalles, and you can spend a whole day just popping into galleries.
Sunday night, CBC Television presents The Guess Who.
Music really has been the lifeblood that flows through these veins.
With a life and times biography of Burton Cummings. And The Guess Who, the concert. They rocked an entire generation. And a generation later, they're back. The Guess Who, Sunday, only on CBC Television.
For the want of a paperclip, a document was lost. For the want of a document, a contract was lost. For the want of a contract, a factory was lost. All for the want of a paperclip. Better get better. Better get Basics. Thousands of office essentials delivered on demand. Call for your nearest Basics dealer and our catalog of new and exciting products, like the complete line of easy-to-use smart labeling solutions from Dymo to keep everyone organized, now at special prices.
It's become a holiday tradition. Swiss Chalet's Festive Special. Our famous rotisserie chicken, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and our Festive Special now comes with 5 Lindor chocolate truffles. Comfort and joy, all for just $7.99. Which leaves us with only one other thing to suggest.
Style is creating your own look.
It's being yourself. Style is being confident in who you are.
Call Ballet Total Fitness now and start feeling confident about the way you look. Join today for just $29 down and only $29 a month. We've got exciting new classes, innovative equipment, and friendly, motivating instructors. Everything you need to feel great. Start creating your own look.
Call Bally at 1-800-FITNESS.
Just $29 down and only $29 a month.
Welcome back. We are coming to the end of a cold fall day here on Front Street West at the Broadcast Center. There will be scattered showers in the forecast tonight. I'll tell you more about that a little later on. Now to entertainment news. Toronto's always had a clearly defined entertainment district and a financial district. Today, add one more district, the Queen West Gallery District, running from Bathurst to Ronsonvale. Aaron Moore has the story.
Phil Anderson's excited about today's designation.
So this particular show here, we have 21 artists in this
He's the director of the 1313 Gallery, just one of the 22 galleries in the new district.
It's very exciting, and I think people, the public, a lot of the public are starting to realize too that there's sort of an inertia here, something happening along Queen Street with new galleries opening up all the time. And the old Gladstone Hotel has been purchased, and it looks like that may be turned into an art facility as well.
This was sort of like a homage to...
Gary McLeod is an artist in the neighborhood. He hopes the new name will mean more exposure.
I think it'll just increase the profile of all the galleries in this neighborhood, and anytime you can increase profile of artwork, that's a good thing for the artist, because the ultimate goal, of course, for any artist is hopefully to make some kind of a living from their art, or at least to have some kind of a feedback from it, and that's a very positive thing.
Henny Fox of Visual Arts Ontario, also located on Queen West, says this area is not just for veteran gallery goers.
The individual who might like to look at art but doesn't want to walk into a more established Yorkville gallery because A, they may be the only person in there, and even if they're not, they may not be made to feel particularly welcome. I think there's something very inviting about this neighborhood, and I think there's something really inviting about the people in the neighborhood.
To honor the new district, there'll be celebrations at several Queen West galleries this weekend. Aaron Moore, CBC News, Toronto.
From serial killers to psychotics, Hollywood has often been criticized for unfairly stereotyping individuals with mental illnesses. For the past 8 years, though, a local film festival has been trying to change that distorted image. It's known as the Rendezvous with Madness. This year, the lineup includes 26 features and shorts that deal with mental health and addiction themes. The festival gets underway tonight with Pandemonium, a film by renowned British director Julian Temple. Here's a quick preview.
Sam. William!
William, it's the most terrible thing. The opium has cut me loose from time. Sometimes moments seem to freeze and seconds melt as slow as glaciers. Then suddenly I walk through a door and 10 years of my life are gone. My mind is shipwrecked, blown by storms of time. William, please help me.
Films will be screened at Toronto's Royal Cinema at 606 College Street and at the Joseph Workman Theatre on Queen Street. The festival runs until Sunday. A whirlwind tour in the offing for the Backstreet Boys. They're about to jet off around the world for 100 hours straight to promote their new album. The boys will spend just under half of their time on the ground as they touch down around the globe in Stockholm, Tokyo, Sydney, Cape Town, Rio, and New York. The pop stars will be on the go non-stop, but they say they'll still have time to meet their fans and sign a few autographs. Lorena McKinnon was also in the news today. She had people in Stratford, Ontario singing her praises after coming to the rescue of a neighborhood school. Wilf Jinnick explains why.
Lorena McKinnon is known around the world for her music. But in her hometown of Stratford, Ontario, she has new star status. The musician has saved an empty school from developers.
And that sense of community and how and that worry, that sensibility, that experience is becoming more foreign to us.
While the school will be empty, the building will stay. She paid $630,000 for the building. It's small and it's old, but neighbors say without it, there's no neighborhood.
Without her, this would be a whole bunch of building lots. I mean, it wouldn't be a school anymore. Right. There'd be roads through here and parking lots and all these trees would come down.
This is one of 4 buildings sold by the school board. Provincial funding is based on how many children attend a school. Falstaff holds just over 100 students.
Overall, our school board is in an enrollment decline because there are fewer people of school age in our district. And this has an ongoing effect given that the amount of money the school board receives is based on the number of students we have.
That's up to the province, not the town. And Swertfager's family has been in Stratford for 7 generations. This was her school.
Their freedom to decide what they wanted their neighborhoods to look like and to be like, and the way they wanted those neighborhoods to serve the people that lived in them was taken away.
Lorena McKennett is going to hold a meeting here next week. She wants the neighbors to tell her who the next tenants of this building should be. But beyond that, she says, she hopes it sparks a much larger debate. And that's how to keep Ontario's smaller neighborhood schools open. Wilf Dinnick, CBC News, Stratford, Ontario.
Turning to business news now. No surprises today from the U.S. Federal Reserve. It did what was expected and held the line on interest rates. The rate will stay at 6.5%. Economists say the move isn't surprising, especially with the uncertainty surrounding the presidential election. Robert Lack picks up the story.
Alan Greenspan may have had to step through the smoke to get to a morning meeting of the Federal Reserve, but by late afternoon, the thinking of the Fed was clear for all investors to see. The Fed has decided to leave interest rates unchanged and to maintain a bias towards raising rates, warning that inflation is still a threat to the economy. In a statement, the Fed said that the pool of available workers remains at an unusually high level, and the increase in energy prices still harbors the possibility of raising inflation expectations. That's not exactly what stock investors were hoping to hear. They tend to dislike the prospect of rising interest rates because higher rates increase costs and cut into company profits. Stock investors would have preferred a neutral bias.
I think we're going to have to see 2 things before that bias does move to neutral. We are going to have to see more convincing evidence that the slowdown in the U.S. economy is something that is going to stay with us for a few quarters. I think we're also going to have to see continued evidence that higher energy prices are not spilling over into the prices of other goods and services.
By the end of the year, that is by the next meeting on December 19th, we think the Fed will go to a neutral bias to recognize the slowdown that is taking place in the U.S. economy.
Currency traders as well as equity traders were watching the Federal Reserve, and the prospect of higher U.S. interest rates is yet more bad news for the Canadian dollar, which dropped another 1/3 of a cent against its U.S. counterpart, hitting its lowest point since late 1998. The dollar is facing a double threat: higher rates in the U.S. drawing money away from Canada, and the political uncertainty here driving it away.
We are hearing some rumors that one of the things that is concerning currency markets is the possibility that we might have a minority government in Canada, that might lead to less clear focus on economic policies.
Even if the Canadian dollar keeps falling, do not expect the Bank of Canada to jump to the rescue. In recent statements, bank officials have made it clear they see the dollar's problems as temporary and expect it to make a full recovery. Robert Lack, CBC News, Toronto.
You are watching Canada Now live in Toronto. The weather is coming up next.
Someone without baggage has never traveled on the road to love. Fall into these arms of mine. Friday at 9 on CBC.
Introducing a revolutionary line of shampoos and conditioners for styled and color-treated hair. New Alberto European Resilience shampoos and conditioners, the only line with natural vitamin E in every bottle. Each time you use it, your hair is infused with an enriched formula containing natural vitamin E. Your hair will look renewed with bounce and shine. Protect and renew the look of your hair with new Alberto European Resilient shampoos and conditioners. The only line with natural vitamin E in every bottle.
I'm shopping for my husband. Why don't we go to the men's department? Oh, no, thanks. What I have in mind is this. It's midnight. The kids are asleep. The presents are wrapped. Chilled champagne, scented candles are everywhere. And... oh, I've got the perfect gift. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. It's midnight. The kids are asleep.
The Bay. Shopping is good.
Well, how about I just try this one for everybody?
We have cheddar.
I'm sorry, yeah. I have cheddar. I have white cheddar. I have, you were gonna have one, which you're not.
Good.
Hey, well, lady, certain ones mean more to me than others. It's cheddar.
Is it old?
No, it's fairly new. I cut it up this morning. That's the last white one. Bad. You're on TV. Say cheese.
Welcome back. Before we get to the weather, something that doesn't really fall in the category of hard news, but it's interesting nonetheless. It's about a city landmark that's closed its doors. With its familiar red brick and green roof, Sai Wu Restaurant on Dundas, west of Bay, was in the heart of old Chinatown, in business for more than 35 years. Regular patrons say it was one of the best places in town for Chinese food, but business declined over the years as Chinatown activity moved to other parts of the city. The owners served up their last meal earlier this week. Time to check the weather now. It is 3 degrees outside at this very moment. Tonight it will be clouding over with scattered showers developing. The low will be near -1. Tomorrow again we'll see the day cloud over and again scattered showers developing throughout the day. The high tomorrow just 6 degrees. Looking at the 3-day forecast, Friday cloudy with scattered showers or wet flurries. It will also be windy. The high near 5, the low near 1. Heading into the weekend on Saturday, cloudy with isolated flurries. The high near 4, the low near -2. And Sunday again cloudy with isolated flurries, the high near 4, the low near -1. And that is our program for tonight. I'm Carol McNeil. Thank you for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great evening.